So, we all know that what comes with being in a little bit of love is a little bit of pain, right? Um, no? Okay. Welcome to a tag where I kind of torture myself because that's, I guess, what we do here. I've come up with the tag loveliest decks in my collection just in time for Valentine's Day, regardless if you celebrate it or not, you think it's cheesy, corny, or you're all for it. I thought, let's just have some fun and do a themed tag video. I am sorry in advance for the prompts. These were really difficult. Like I said, I like to torture myself, apparently. I have the prompts listed below. Everyone is tagged here to join in. The first prompt is the Heartthrob Deck. Which deck swept you off your feet the moment you saw it, or your love at first sight deck? And while I could say this pretty much for the majority of my decks, I thought of one in particular, and that's my tarot bot. I think I have spoken a lot about this deck and how adorable it just is, and it stole my heart right away. And this was a Kickstarter, but the Kickstarter had ended. I made it my mission to find it. I can't even remember where I found it, but I found a brand new, unopened, still sealed copy at the time, and I bought it right away, and it came in, and I've been in love with it ever since. It's truly a gem in my collection, and it definitely pulled the rug from under my feet. I searched pretty much relentlessly until I was able to find a copy, because then I was able to breathe again. I just felt like I held my breath the whole time searching for a copy of this deck that someone was selling, or they wanted to get rid of, or what have you. But I have still seen copies floating around. It's not impossible to find, and I love this deck so much that I did buy a backup copy of it. So that's why I initially thought of this deck, because I love it so much that I just can't be without it, and I always need to have it in my collection. So the Heartthrob Deck goes to Tarotbot. The second prompt is the Hopeless Romantic Deck. Which deck feels the most romantic or dreamy to you? And while I tried to really be strict with myself and go with just one answer, this is the one where I gave myself permission to have two. And the decks that I chose are the Wilderness Collide Oracle and Estrella's Dream Tarot, because these are my most dreamy and most romantic decks, at least art-wise. I don't really do dedicated relationship or like love readings per se. I don't think Estrella's Dream would be the one for that kind of work, but it is a complete like dream world. I mean, it literally has dream in the name, so I couldn't pass it up as a pick for this prompt. And the Wilderness Collide is truly like a very romantic deck. It's one that if I were to do love readings, I would definitely use this to pair with it, to pair with whatever was being read. I just think the pastel quality of the colors, sometimes it almost feels like there's a filter on these, making it very soft and dreamlike. This features a lot of pinks and purples, which I think lend itself well to like a dreamy atmosphere. But yeah, I mean, wow, Divine Feminine and the Ace of Cups. Those are my picks for the Hopeless Romantic Deck. And this is the only prompt where I allowed myself to cheat and pick two. So there you have it. Prompt number 3 is the Soulmate Deck. Which deck do you feel the deepest emotional connection with? And this is a question that was really hard, and I almost decided not to include it on here because I have 3 to 5 decks that I would say I'm very closely emotionally bonded with. So it's really hard to just pick one, but I ended up going for my Nosotras Tarot, and I feel emotionally bonded to this deck because it's very wise. It has a lot of knowledge. There is diversity in here. It is female presenting in all of the cards. That was a purposeful choice by the artists, and I think that comes through really beautifully. I don't think it's in harm to, masculinity. I do feel that some of these figures and the cards and how they're portrayed comes off like masculine. I think each of us has both within us. So I don't think it lacks in that at all. So I feel like it's still really well balanced, but it just feels very wise. Like I'm sitting down with a group of women that I revere and I look up to, and we're having a circle and we're having deep discussions, and they are guiding me, they are leading me, they are there for me at every step of the way. We're really connected with one another. And I really appreciate this deck for that, and that has what's caused our emotional bond, I believe. Right out of the gate, I had a good bond with this deck. We had a very good connection, and even though I haven't had this deck a year just yet, it's been maybe 6 or 7 months now, maybe longer. It feels like I've had it forever. It feels like I've known it forever. The minute I saw it, even digitally, when I found this deck, I don't know, like, how can you not be emotionally bonded to this deck? I don't know, but it's one of my strongest for sure. Like I said, I have others that I also am bonded with, but this one has really been leading the charge in that way. Just so much feminine wisdom here. Like, it really comes through in the readings, even as I'm looking through images, not necessarily doing a reading, because sometimes I'll just bring it out, I'll have it close to me. Just that energy feels really warm and comforting. And so the Nosotros Tarot. Okay, the next prompt is the Self-Love Deck. Which deck helps you reconnect with yourself or practice self-care? And I did waffle between one deck and another, but ultimately I chose the Spacious Tarot because this is really the sole purpose of this deck in my practice and in my collection. It really helps me be more grounded. It is very gentle, I feel like. It leaves a lot of room for you in the equation, which I think is a very selfless thing for this deck to do. I just think it's done so beautifully, and there couldn't be a better name for it than the Spacious Tarot. Again, I come back to saying that pretty much almost every time that I share this deck, because it is so wonderful. It leaves so much room for you in there. It's a good path working deck if you want to do some meditations with it. If you want to sit down and, let's say we're in this field of wildflowers and we close our eyes and we can hear the breeze, we can feel it, and we get a nice warm waft of scent from the flowers around us, and then we hear a gentle flapping of wings as a hawk lands right in the middle of the field where we're sitting, and the sun is warm and we feel hopeful and loved and at rest. And just being able to go through the cards and literally sit down, close your eyes, and visualize yourself in the cards. I think it's such a wonderful thing for self-love and reconnecting you to a better place, even if it's a tougher card, right? I think it does a very beautiful job. So I do gravitate towards this deck a lot when I'm seeking comfort, or recognizing that maybe I'm being a little too hard on myself, or I feel a little bit disconnected from my emotional self. It's a really good one to have. And we'll end here with the beautiful Ace of Cups. Okay, prompt number 5, which is a purposeful like 2-deck showcase here, is the Power Couple Combo. Which tarot and oracle deck pairing is your favorite and why? And for this one, I have Desert Illuminations and the Illuminated Deck of Holy Souls. And the reason that I chose this is because it is by the same author. She is the creator of both of these, and so naturally there is a lot of cohesion going on. Lindsay D. Williams, who created these, has a very distinct style, and she carried that through to her newest deck here, which is the Illuminated Deck of Holy Souls. It's an oracle deck featuring saints from around the world. I just think that these two, they couldn't go together more perfectly. And not only do they go together very aesthetically, I just think they're both kind of otherworldly in a way. I know this one is based on like real people and or, you know, cultural figures, and this one can get a little bit more imaginative. I think the way that she has depicted a lot of the saints in this deck are really grounding, and they bring them from being this like up in the clouds entity and puts their feet right on the dirt. It really does. I don't know how to describe it more than that. I mean, here for example, like Otherwise, this would be just, you know, another nun, I guess, in a sense, but she's holding a heart that's literally on fire. So it brings a different lens to each of these. I mean, wow, look at this. He's slaying a beast here, and then we have a beast in this with all the different eyes, and it's even the same color as the wings here match this creature. I just think it's brilliant. The reason is color story goes together. It's by the same artist, but they have a different take on the world. They've got a little bit of a different lean, and together I think it just paints such a beautiful pairing. Prompt number 6 is the Secret Admirer deck, a deck you don't use often, but you secretly adore. And this prompt was made for this deck in my collection. Like, I couldn't describe our relationship any better than this, but I chose the Gil Tarot. I have had the Gil Tarot forever, and it's been through a lot with me. I've had it in purgatory for months and months and months. I've taken it back out and I've put it on my shelf because I just can't part with it, and it's gone back in purgatory again. But there's something that's really keeping it here. There's a time and place that I'm going to be doing a deep dive and really working to understand this deck a little bit more. And for that reason, it's the perfect deck for this prompt. I love the artwork. It's just very unique. I don't know how to describe it other than that. But as you can see, the pips are quite pippy, but there is like feeling to them, and there is keywords for the pips in artwork here, or different cards where the artwork is a little bit more flushed out. There's like I don't know, it's hard to describe. There's a quality to the art that I just am fascinated by. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I love the colors of this deck. I mean, the Magician's cloak on the inside is day and night. How genius is that? I just think there's small touches like that throughout the cards that really give it some interest. This being part of his mane and her belt here, they're connected, but also like something happened here to his predecessor, maybe. We don't know, right? It's just a very interesting deck that I can't wait to dive into more. So prompt number 7, the prompt that gave me the most trouble, and I almost didn't do this video because it's a tough one, guys, so brace yourselves. Number 7 is the Forever Love deck. If you could only keep one deck in your entire collection, which would it be and why? Yes, I really put myself in a position of anguish, despair, because I love my decks. They're all so special to me, so to think that I would have to leave all but one behind is like soul crushing to me. But I tried to just think of it in the context of this tag video. It's not real life, so I ended up choosing the Chromatic Fates. This deck has a hold on me, and I can't escape it, nor do I really want to. I love this deck. I don't think there's anything else like it out there. I know that there are plenty of other decks where each card is done by a different artist, but I don't think it's done in this caliber. The art is so different, but as a collection, it works so well. I think everything was so well thought out. This deck, the purpose is a color story, so chromatic speaks to color. I think that the art director for this really has an eye for choosing people who have an eye for color. There's definitely no doubt about that. They know how to use it. This deck has a lot of depth to it, and I could use this for a daily draw and just stare at the card that I get forever and a day. I always come back to my readings with this learning something new, even if I do draw the same card. It's just very dynamic. It has a lot of visual interest, but I don't know, there's just something about it that is always taking up brain space in my head. Like, I always think of this deck, always. It's always in my mind. I do go through strong bouts of using it, for sure, but I do try to use all of my decks as equally as I can. It's hard not to pick up this one every day. I don't know, it puts me in like 78 different worlds, but those worlds really could be connected almost, it feels like. So I feel comfortable with this choice. I feel as okay as I can about this choice. I think this is like my most, like, the least favorite card in the whole deck. I am not an Alice in Wonderland fan. I know, like, that's gonna hurt a lot of people's feelings, but that's very much the truth. Not that I've never understood the appeal. I just think there are other worlds where characters have dipped into that are fantastical that resonate a little bit better with me. Lord of the Rings, Narnia for sure. Gosh, that had me crying. Narnia. Yeah, I guess that could be why. I mean, this does at a lot of points give me like Narnia feels. It's fantastical. It's not afraid to be outside of our realm, but it's like the cards we know and love, right? It's the tarot. So that is my Forever Love deck. And my friends, we have reached the final prompt, number 8, which is the love letter card. Choose one card from your collection that feels like a love letter to yourself or perhaps to someone special. And for this prompt, I chose a card from the Anthropologist Tarot, and I knew exactly what card in the tarot that I wanted. It's the one that speaks to my soul all of the time. It's the card that I seek when looking at new decks or thinking about acquiring new decks. It is a card that matters deeply to me on many different levels. And I think this is one of my most favorite depictions of this card in all of the decks that I have. And I have a lot of beautiful decks, guys, so that kind of says something in itself. But the card that I chose to represent, or that feels like a love letter to me, is the Star card. And I'll just get a close-up here of this particular Star card because there's some layering here. But in particular, I love how this card has no head. It's missing an arm, it's missing part of its leg, but it still finds a way to be connected to itself in the heart space, touching its heart, reviving itself. It's been through hell and back, literally, but it's still shining and it's still glimmering and it's still fighting to heal and become better than it was. That resonates with me a lot. It reminds me to be resilient, to never give up hope, because I am a pretty positive-minded person. I always try to take a more positive lean to everything, and sometimes when we're in the thick of it, we can easily forget that. And so this card reminds me so much of my true self. Kind of like, I don't know, I feel like an underdog. And this depiction of the Star, they feel like an underdog. It's very touching and very moving to me, and it's a gentle reminder, a great love letter to myself, about myself. And that's why I chose the Star card from the Anthropologist Tarot. All right, guys, there you have it. Are you still with me? Are you okay? Do you need a hug? Because I know I do. I hope you had a lot of fun watching this, and I hope that if you decide to do this tag that you have a lot of fun with it. Don't take it too seriously. Don't get too caught up in the finality of the prompts. Just have fun with it, and I hope to see your response soon. And until next time, see you around.